After the last week or so of brand new games coming out and pre-orders going wrong and struggling to get games and not getting a release date, a pre-order on the day that it comes out, or maybe sometimes successfully getting it, but only if you actually manage to travel like an hour away. I can't believe how difficult it has become to actually get brand new games the day that they release physically these days. It's almost. I got this comment, we'll show it over here. It's almost like Game, for example, themselves are just accepting the death of physical media, despite the fact that, in reality, Game is the only, as far as I can think of, dedicated. This is a bit of a stretch. Dedicated gaming shop whose purpose is to buy games from. That's left, It's not like we have options anymore. It's not like I walk into the high street and I choose between going into Game or Game Station. It's not like there's competition. These days, genuinely, one of the better ways of getting a brand new game is going to CEX, because there are some strange people out there that buy a game and very, very, very rapidly take it to CEX. Like, for example, I was looking when Silent Hill 2 came out. There was 4 copies in Silent Hill 2's ecosystem, in CEX's ecosystem, of Silent Hill 2 before I'd managed to have mine arrive. And I don't know, maybe it's people that had it delivered a day early, because I've seen a lot of people saying that the Collection and Shop 2 are 2 websites, the Game Collection even, are 2 websites that tend to deliver, even if not on the day before. So there's not too many more releases coming that I'm actually too interested in getting, physically anyway, when it comes to the PS5. But I've seen on the Game Collection's website that, what is it? Assassin's Creed Shadow, that comes out in February, or although it's supposed to be coming out in a few weeks, has got a steelbook version. So I'm going to get that from the Game Collection and see if it arrives early, and we'll see. But yeah, it's not like there is real competition for brand new sealed games anymore. So you'd think that Game would just have the monopoly on it and they'd do great. But it seems that you walk into Game and you can't buy games. It does honestly look like they have accepted defeat. It almost looks like they are just at this point selling through whatever stock they've got left, trying to reduce their losses in some form or fashion, and just have, if they're not expecting to close down, they seem to have resigned themselves to, at least if nothing else, being just sort of a merchandise shop. Like, for as long as I can remember now, for at least a decade, every time I'd walk into Game, it would just be like, what, Minecraft and Five Nights at Freddy merch. Like, in terms of actually buying brand new games, I feel like it's been a while since I've actually successfully done that at Game with ease. I genuinely had an easier time hunting down and tracking Kuon at 620 quid, one of the rarest PlayStation 2 games you can get, than I have had with brand new games like Silent Hill 2 Remake and Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. It was genuinely easy for me to click and collect this at a CEX that happened to have it, than Game. Game doesn't have a click and collect system anymore by the look of it. What do you mean? Like, I know that I've ranted a lot about pre-order related things recently, but it's been a pretty apt topic this month because we are in kind of a crazy season for gaming in terms of the amount of things coming out. Not everything coming out interests me, but if you are the sort of person that plays just everything and gets every game that comes out, and you're a physical collector, this next, quarter, you are going to, A, spend a lot of money, and B, you're going to be travelling around or waiting a lot, depending on how you want to get your games. Because Game themselves don't seem to do click and collect pre-orders. So, for example, I had a couple of comments being something along the lines of, why didn't you pre-order it to the store to collect in the day rather than having it delivered to your house? Because, for example, the Silent Hill 2 Steelbook is still not here. I think that it might be here tomorrow. I don't know. Granted, they did send out the regular copy so that I could be playing it on the day that it came out, so well done them, I suppose. The bare minimum, though, really, when you think about it, having the ability to play the game that you pre-ordered, because I don't know about you guys, but when I was younger, pre-ordering a game was so that you could guarantee, no matter what, that you were playing it the day of release. Because some games were just so successful that they would sell out so fast that if you didn't pre-order it, you weren't getting a physical one on release day. To the point where I remember there was a massive uproar. I remember when the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One released, and people didn't get their day one editions of the Xbox One on day one, despite pre-ordering, because they just didn't make enough of them. And the internet and the media went wild because of that. And now it seems that situation is the norm for just regular games that you can pre-order, and the internet goes mild about it. I don't feel like I hear people complaining about this. I didn't realise it was a thing until I've been trying to pre-order things, because the only reason I try to pre-order things now is because it's so hard to get things physically that I want to ensure that I've got one in some form or fashion. So yeah, like I said, going forward, anything that I get, I'm going to give the Shop 2 or the Game Collection website a go, because I've heard nothing but raving reviews about those guys. And Yeah, hopefully they deliver early enough though. I also, on the similar topic, got this comment from somebody in Australia, which I thought was pretty cool. I think it's really cool that a decent chunk of my following is American and Australian. And sometimes I think I'm talking about how game stores work here, and it either doesn't compute with them because it works better where they are, or they've just got a different system anyway. I'll try and, like, I don't know, make comparisons that are potentially going to make sense. So, for example, I had some American dudes commenting something along the lines of, is Game our equivalent of GameStop? Probably, yeah. It used to definitely be, but I feel like GameStop is still somewhere that you can go and buy physical games from and not really struggle. Whereas Game, being the only GameStop, being the only game store in the UK that's like brand new. Again, CEX rules the world at this point of physical media. Like, people talk on TikTok about how I'm single-handedly keeping CEX in business because of how much I spend, but that is just nowhere near the case. I would love to know how much money CEX make. Given that, remember I did those videos where I went through my entire collection and looked at how much they would give me if I was to sell them my collection, and the cash figure was like 1/3 of what they would then go on to sell it for. You got to think that that's happening every single day when people take stuff in, especially with things that are more expensive than a lot of the games. You got to remember they don't just sell games. They probably deal in millions of pounds worth of phones per year just because of that. Every time I get a CX in the middle of the day, no matter what town I'm in, there's always some middle-aged people buying a phone from CX. There always is, every single time. And you got to think, how much are they paying for that versus how much did the person that sold it to them in the first place get paid for it? CEX, as long as they continually have stock coming in, are continually just printing money just because they don't give very much for the stuff that they get. I truly am under no concern that CX is going anywhere, especially due to things like game stopping pre-orders. Like, a year or two ago, you had options when it came to getting secondhand games in person. You could walk into Game, and they did pre-ordered stuff. You could trade your stuff into Game instead of CX. You can't do that anymore. Now CX absolutely has the monopoly. Like, whether you like CX or not, whether you're like anti-corporate stuff or not, which a lot of people are, it's hard to disagree with the fact that CX is unlikely to go anywhere and are doing just fine. Anyway, I said that I would try and make it make sense for people that are potentially not from here. So if you guys are from a country that doesn't have CEX, to explain what CEX is, they are a second-hand electronics store that prioritises mostly in games, DVDs, phones, and like miscellaneous technology. So like you can sell them computer components and like cameras and stuff like that. They, at the moment, are probably the most prolific physical gaming shop that you have in England. Like, I can never find anywhere else to go. There are like individually owned stores, like privately owned stores where it's just some fella or some lady that owns it. But like when it comes to a chain, where it comes to consistency, where there's a website where you can check the stock and travel around and walk into a shop and it'll be there, CEX is like the only place now. Which is wild when you think about the fact that literally everything that CEX sells, literally everything, is secondhand. They do not deal in brand new. They deal in stuff that is effectively brand new due to the fact that people take stuff in so quickly. Like I said about how Silent Hill 2 had stuff in there straight away. Like, for all intents and purposes, that is brand new. But technically, from a legal perspective, it has been pre-owned. We also have a shop called Smith's, but I don't know about the rest of the country, but where I am, there are no Smiths. For example, you know the other day when I went to get Dragon Ball, I had to drive like an hour to get to an Argos that did have it? Well, within the radius of that hour, there were maybe 3 to 5 different Argoses that I could have gone to, but they didn't have the stock. But they were options for future with different things, because you never know where things are going to pop up or be in stock. You get my point. But when it comes to Smiths, none. Not one. I think my nearest Smiths is Walsall, which is a CEX, which I judge everything by like how far I'm willing to drive for a CEX. As my CEX trips have gone over the last year or so, I've only been to Walsall once because it's a decent jaunt away, although it is very nostalgic to me because it's where I basically grew up. But that is quite a ways away, and Smiths would be inconvenient to go to versus any one of the 5 or so Argoses that are inherently closer. Smiths would be like the absolute final option if I absolutely couldn't get it from an Argos or a Currys, or if Amazon was letting me down, or if Game was definitely letting me down. You know what I mean? I've been into Smiths once in recent memory that I can think of, and it was pretty good in there, to be fair, when it came to buying games. I did buy, I think, Red Dead 1 on PS4, and it was way cheaper to buy it from Smiths at the time than it was to buy it from CEX, which, again, to reiterate for those not from around here, CEX deals exclusively in second-hand, so I got a brand new game for cheaper than it would have been second-hand because Smiths is pretty good. It's just a shame that there aren't many Smiths around by the look of it. I couldn't name another Smiths. The only Smith that I know of anywhere near me is that Walsall. Besides that, I have no idea. And then as another option for physical stuff, there is a shop called HMV, but I don't think that HMV deal with games at all in store. I used to, when I was DVD collecting, go into HMV quite a lot because they were really, really good for like miscellaneous horror films or like kids stuff or like box sets of DVDs. HMV in my head is primarily a DVD shop that also sells like merchandise and music. I don't think there is any games in store, but I know that you can definitely pre-order games online. But then even then, when it comes to HMV, there's none of them near me either. My HMV in my town shut about 10 years ago because my town is derelict when it comes to the high street. To the point where, fun fact, my partner did her dissertation on the downfall of my town's high street. That's how bad it got. So I think that in reality, my nearest HMV is even further away than my nearest Smiths. So I really don't have choices. When it comes to choices and the distance that I'm willing to reasonably drive for an actual brick and mortar store, because that's what I would prefer, it's just Argos and Currys for the most part. They're my usual go-tos. And generally, to be fair, Argos over the last couple of years has been pretty reliable when it comes to getting games. I don't really know what's been going on this year where I've been having to drive further away, but like in recent years I've been able to go to my local Argos like in my town and get like Resident Evil 4 remake or Dead Space remake. Like last year I got quite a few of my PlayStation 5 games from my local Argos and it worked out quite well. So I don't really know why it's becoming so much of a struggle, and it brings us back to, are they preparing for the death of physical media? Are they all winding down? Is there less stock? I would love behind the scenes numbers in terms of like how many discs are made these days. Like when a brand new AAA game comes out, right? How many copies are distributed, like not worldwide, but like nationwide to the various different stores that will stock them, which is not many, versus that same figure, that same circumstance like 12 years ago. Because like I feel like games used to come out at a much higher pace because I suppose games were easier to make and cheaper to make too, the further back in time you go. But like, if you look at the amount of games that were released in 2012, some of the biggest hitters of all time were released in 2012. And it's like, just think about how many physical copies there were. When I worked at Tesco, we had boxes and boxes of games in the back of Tesco. I was just about to say, I wonder what's even in the back of Tesco now, because there wouldn't be an entire lockup of games and media because they don't do games and media anymore. But in reality, the answer to that question is probably cigarettes, because they just never had enough space for that. It was always piled really high, so now they've probably spaced it out more laterally rather than vertically. But yeah, I don't want to see the death of physical media, because obviously I like collecting physical media, but the harder that they make it, especially when making content on gaming-related things is my job, the more annoying it's going to get, to the point where, like I said, I've pretty much already decided that once that bottom shelf on the PlayStation 5 shelf is filled, I'm going to stop getting physical PS5 games because it's really frustrating, and I'll just switch to digital, and then I will solely focus on collecting PS4, 3 and 2, and maybe some soon handheld stuff, because I'm kind of starting to get very itchy at handheld stuff, but that's a topic for another video. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, like and subscribe. The majority of people that make it this far into the video have already subscribed, so I need to realistically, from a social media growth standpoint, start saying this earlier in the video. I keep forgetting. Like and subscribe.